The room is hushed, the air thick with the silent weight of love's unspoken questions. A hand pauses, fingers curling inward, as if to cradle a fragile truth. Eyes flicker, meeting then pulling away, seeking balance in the tender chaos of intimacy. What does it mean to stand free in love, to avoid the weight of a partner's control? How do men and women hold their ground, hearts open yet unbowed, in the delicate dance of romance? This isn't a question that demands a roar. It's a whisper, etched in the tilt of a head, the steady clasp of hands, a call to pause, to feel the psyche's quiet rhythm. Carl Jung, the sage who saw the soul as a tapestry of light and shadow, would say, avoiding domination in love is no mere act of defiance. It's a thread in the weave of becoming, a path to wholeness traced through every glance, every gesture. For both men and women, it's not about resisting love, but embracing it without losing the self. So, let's sit with these questions, feel the weight of a held breath, and let this tale unfold, slow and gentle, like a story meant to ease you into sleep. How do we love freely? And how does the body's silent language guide us to freedom? Have you ever felt your heart race, yet held your shoulders steady, refusing to bend? Or caught your lips trembling, yet kept your gaze firm, guarding your truth? Avoiding domination in love is a dance of the body, a quiet symphony of gestures that men and women weave to preserve their sovereignty. Jung would ask, his voice soft, what is freedom in love, truly? Is it rebellion, or is it creation, a sculpting of the self amidst passion's fire? Jung saw the psyche as a vast canvas, its surface the conscious ego, the I that meets the world. Beneath lies the personal unconscious, a shadow of buried fears and desires. Deeper still flows the collective unconscious, a sea of archetypes, the lover, the hero, the shadow, that shape every soul. To avoid being dominated, one must engage the shadow, the hidden part where fears of inadequacy, rejection, or powerlessness reside. When a man's jaw tightens, resisting the urge to yield to a partner's demands, or a woman's hands still, choosing silence over compliance, they're not just resisting, they're seeking individuation, Jung's term for the journey to integrate the conscious and unconscious, to become whole. Picture a moment. A man's posture straightens, his eyes steady, as he gently declines to follow a partner's will. A woman's fingers unclench, her breath even, as she holds her ground against pressure. These gestures are freedom, Jung would say. Not walls, but bridges to the self, the archetype of wholeness. But freedom is a delicate art. It can empower the heart, or isolate it if mistaken for defiance. Have you ever stood firm, only to wonder if you've pushed love away? Both men and women have, and it's their challenge, their gift to master this dance. Why do we love? Why do we risk our hearts knowing the pull of another's will? Envision a couple, their bodies telling a story of resistance to domination. His arms relax, hands open, as he resists the urge to appease. Her eyes lift, calm and unyielding, refusing to mirror a partner's control. This is the witness, the first strategy to avoid domination, a shared act for men and women. Jung taught that love is a mirror reflecting the psyche's light and shadow. The witness disciplines the body to observe, not just the partner's actions, but the self's reactions, the urge to submit, to please, to vanish. A man might tilt his head, brow softening, noting his impulse to agree without thought. A woman might rest her hands, fingers loose, aware of her need to fix tension. These gestures honor the shadow, the part that fears being powerless, that craves approval. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, Jung wrote of the self as the guide to balance. The witness's discipline is this path, loving without surrendering the soul. But witnessing has pitfalls. A man's silence can become detachment, his eyes averted too long, fearing confrontation. A woman's calm can turn to avoidance, her hands clenched, hiding her voice. Jung warned of the complex, a knot of emotions that grits the psyche. A complex of inferiority might make observation a retreat, turning freedom into isolation. Have you ever watched so closely you forgot to act? Both genders have, and the body betrays their struggle, his stiff posture, her tightened lips. To wield this strategy, one could pause, Jung would suggest, feeling the rhythm of their breath. Ask, why do I watch? Is it to see or to hide? Write it down. I stayed silent today, fearing I'd lose them. Choose moments to respond, balancing observation with action, letting love grow through clarity. Recall a time when pausing to observe, a partner's sharp tone, your own racing pulse, led to a calmer choice, a word that held your truth. The body softens, shoulders easing, as if to say, witness, but let your truth shine. Imagine a scene, a man's feet shift, grounding himself, as he says no to a partner's overbearing demand. A woman's spine straightens, her gaze steady, as she sets a boundary, choosing her truth. This is the sentinel, the second strategy to avoid domination, the universal strength for men and women. Jung saw boundaries as acts of self-awareness, a dialogue with the shadow. The sentinel disciplines the body to stand firm, not in anger, but in resolve. A woman might cross her arms, not in defense but in clarity, refusing to overgive. A man might plant his hands on his hips, his voice calm, declining to follow a partner's will. These gestures are freedom, Jung would say, not rejection, but affirmation of the self. In Psychological Types, Jung wrote of individuation as a balance of opposites, connection and autonomy, giving and keeping. The sentinel's discipline is this balance, loving fully while holding the self intact. But the sentinel can falter. A man's rigid stance may become defiance, his eyes hard, masking the complex of inadequacy. A woman's closed posture can turn cold, her silence sharp, hiding a fear of loss. Jung's complex, perhaps one of abandonment, can twist boundaries into walls, love into a battlefield. Have you ever set a boundary only to fear it broke the bond? Both have, and the body tells the tale. His clenched jaw, her averted gaze, reflect on a moment when a boundary, a gentle refusal to rush, led to trust, not distance, as the partner respected the space. To embody this strategy, one could breathe, Jung would suggest, feeling the heart's steady beat. Ask, why do I stand firm? Is it strength or fear? Reflect. I said no today, but it felt like anger, not clarity. Choose boundaries that honor both self and partner. A gentle no paired with an open hand. Practice this in small ways, saying, I need time, with a calm gaze, feeling the body relax. The body relaxes, arms unfolding, as if to say, stand tall, but let love in. Envision a moment. A woman's hands pause, fingers still, resisting the urge to cling to a partner's approval. A man's eyes close briefly, his breath slowing, letting go of a need to control. This is the liberator. The third strategy to avoid domination, a shared act of courage. Jung taught that love tests the ego, stirring the shadow's deepest fears. Rejection, unworthiness, powerlessness. The liberator disciplines the body to release, not love, but the need to be defined by it. A man might unclench his fists, palms opening, allowing his partner space to be themselves. A woman might lift her chin, her shoulders easing, releasing the urge to demand validation. These gestures are freedom, Jung would say, a dance with the anima for men, or animus for women, the inner archetypes of connection and strength. In Aeon, Jung wrote of the self as a center that holds opposites. The liberator's discipline is this center, loving freely while embracing autonomy. A release can stumble. A woman's open hands can mask resignation, her eyes dull, hiding a complex of unworthiness. A man's relaxed posture can hide avoidance, his gaze distant, fearing vulnerability. Jung's complex, perhaps one of betrayal, can make letting go a surrender, not a choice. Have you ever released, only to feel you've lost yourself? Both have, and the body whispers their pain, her slumped shoulders, his tight smile. Recall a time when letting go, giving space after a tense moment, brought closeness, not loss, as trust grew. To wield this strategy, one could pause, Jung would suggest, feeling the rise of their chest. Ask, why do I release? Is it freedom or fear? Right, I let go today, but it felt like giving up. Choose to release with intention, an open palm paired with a steady gaze, building love through trust. Practice this by stepping back, taking a walk alone, feeling the body's ease, and returning with clarity. The body softens, hands resting, as if to say, free yourself, but hold your truth. Imagine a couple. A man's head tilts, his eyes searching, as he shares a hidden doubt. A woman's hands unclasp, her voice steady, as she speaks her truth. This is the truth teller, the fourth strategy to avoid domination, a shared act of vulnerability. Jung saw love as a crucible, forging the psyche through truth. The truth teller disciplines the body to open, not recklessly, but with purpose, facing the shadow's fear of judgment. A woman might square her shoulders, her breath deep, as she admits a need. A man might lean forward, his hands still, as he confesses a fear. These gestures are freedom, Jung would say, a dialogue with the anima or animus, balancing vulnerability with strength. In the structure and dynamics of the psyche, Jung wrote of individuation as a path to authenticity. The truth teller's discipline is this path, loving through honesty without yielding to control. But truth-telling can falter. A man's open posture can hide desperation, his eyes pleading, driven by a complex of shame. A woman's steady voice can mask fear, her hands trembling, fearing rejection. Jung's complex, perhaps one of inferiority, can turn truth into a plea, not a gift. Have you ever shared your heart, only to fear it was too much? Both have, and the body betrays their doubt. His hunched shoulders, her bitten lip. Reflect on a moment when speaking truth, a calm admission of hurt, deepened trust, not fear. To embody this strategy, one could breathe, Jung would suggest, feeling the warmth of their hands. Ask, why do I speak? Is it truth or need? Reflect, I spoke today, but it felt like begging. Choose to share with clarity, a steady gaze, paired with a calm voice, building love through courage. Practice this by voicing a small truth. I felt ignored. With a relaxed posture, feeling the body's strength. The body opens, eyes softening, as if to say, speak, but stand tall. Picture a moment. A woman's arms relax, her smile gentle, as she chooses love over submission. A man's hands rest, his voice soft, as he affirms his worth. This is the creator, the fifth strategy to avoid domination, a universal act of self-affirmation. Jung taught that love is a journey, a path to the self through choice. The creator disciplines the body to affirm, not just the partner, but the self. crafting a love that honors both. A man might nod, his eyes warm, choosing trust over doubt. A woman might touch her partner's hand, her grip steady, choosing equality over surrender. These gestures are freedom, Jung would say, a dance with the self, weaving passion and purpose. In Symbols of Transformation, Jung wrote of love as a transformative force. The Creator's discipline is this force, loving through acts that shape wholeness. But creation can break. A woman's gentle touch can hide fear. Her smile forced, driven by a complex of loss. A man's trust can mask avoidance, his nod empty, fearing conflict. Jung's complex, perhaps one of powerlessness, can turn affirmation into sacrifice, love into duty. Have you ever affirmed love only to feel it cost your soul? Both have, and the body tells their story. Her tight smile, his distant eyes. Recall a time when affirming self, a calm, I deserve respect, strengthened love, not weakened it. To wield this strategy, one could pause, Jung would suggest, feeling the ground beneath their feet. Ask, what am I affirming? Is it love or a mask? Right. I chose trust today, but it felt like losing myself. Choose acts that affirm both self and other, a warm touch paired with an honest word, creating love through truth. Practice this by affirming a value. I need honesty, with a steady gaze, feeling the body's calm. The body steadies, hands open, as if to say, affirm, but keep your heart whole. The air grows still, the weight of love's questions settling like a sigh. A hand rests, fingers loose, no longer clenched. Eyes soften, meeting the world with quiet strength. Jung's wisdom, like a gentle hum, lights the way. Avoiding domination in love, the witness, the sentinel, the liberator, the truth-teller. The Creator is not a fight or a flight. It's a dance, a will to grow, to love without losing the self. For men and women, it's the body's language, pauses, gestures, choices, that carves the path to individuation, to the self. Jung would say freedom is a mirror, reflecting the psyche's light and shadow. In love, it's the choice to observe, to stand firm, to release, to speak, to affirm, each gesture a step toward wholeness. The eternal moments of love ask, live this love as if it defines you, each choice a mark of your truth. Have you ever loved and felt your soul stand free? Both men and women have, and it's a discipline they're learning to embrace. Why do you love? What freedom do you hold? This journey asks us to look within, to see our strength not as defiance, but as creation, not as loss, but as growth. When you choose yourself, when you love truly, when you affirm boldly, everything changes. The world may call you too much, too quiet, too strong, but Jung would smile and say, you are enough. As you hear this tale, let your breath slow, your eyes grow heavy. The questions fade, the body stills, and Jung's words drift like a dream. What is your freedom? What will you create? Sleep, knowing your heart is yours to shape, your love yours to guard. Good night. The room is hushed, the air thick with the unspoken weight of love's questions. A hand pauses, fingers curling inward, as if to cradle a racing heart. Eyes flicker, meeting then drifting, seeking balance in the tender chaos of romance. What is this discipline, this quiet strength that men and women summon in the dance of love? Is it a barrier, a guide, or something softer, etched in the curve of a shoulder, the stillness of a breath? This isn't a question that demands a roar. It's a whisper, carried in the tilt of a head, the gentle clasp of hands, a call to pause, to feel the psyche's silent pulse. Carl Jung, the sage who saw the soul as a canvas of light and shadow, would say discipline in love is no mere rule. It's a thread in the weave of becoming, a path to wholeness traced through every glance, every gesture. For men and women alike, self-discipline is not just control, it's a will to grow, to balance passion with truth, to love without losing the self. So, let's sit with these questions, feel the weight of a held breath, and let this tale unfold, slow and gentle, like a story meant to ease you into sleep. What is discipline in love, and how does it speak through the body's silent language? Have you ever caught yourself biting back a word, your lips pressed tight to let love find its rhythm? Or stood tall, shoulders squared, to guard your heart's truth? Discipline in love is a dance of the body, a quiet symphony of gestures that men and women weave, each pause a choice, each movement a step toward wholeness. Jung would ask, his voice soft, what is discipline truly? Is it suppression, or is it creation, a sculpting of the self through love's fire? Jung saw the psyche as a vast tapestry, its surface the conscious ego, the I that greets the world. Beneath lies the personal unconscious, a shadow of buried fears and desires. Deeper still flows the collective unconscious, a sea of archetypes, the lover, the hero, the shadow, that shape every soul. Discipline in love is not mere restraint, it's a stroke on this tapestry, guided by the shadow, the hidden part where impulses, doubts, and needs reside. When a man's jaw tightens, resisting the urge to demand answers, or a woman's hand still, choosing silence over a plea, they're not just holding back. They're seeking individuation. Jung's term for the journey to integrate the conscious and unconscious, to become whole. Picture a moment. A man's fingers unclench, his gaze softening as he lets an argument fade. A woman's posture eases, her eyes steady as she resists the urge to fill a silence. These gestures are discipline, Jung would say. Not walls but bridges to the self, the archetype of wholeness. But discipline is a delicate art. It can steady the heart or bind it if mistaken for repression. Have you ever held yourself still, only to wonder if you've hidden too much? Both men and women have, and it's their challenge, their gift to master this dance. Why do we love? Why do we choose to stay, to grow, to face the heart's wild tides? Envision a couple, their bodies telling a story of discipline. His arms uncross, shoulders relaxing as he lets a heated moment pass. Her hands rest, fingers loose as she chooses to hear rather than speak. This is the listener, the first pattern of self-discipline in love, a shared act for men and women. Jung taught that love mirrors the psyche, reflecting its light and shadow. The listener disciplines the body to hear, not just the partner's words, but the self's inner voice, the urge to fix, to dominate, to escape. A man might tilt his head, brow softening, resisting the impulse to interrupt with answers. A woman might rest her chin in her hand, lips closed, holding back a rush of reassurance. These gestures honor the shadow, the part that fears being unheard, that craves control. In the archetypes and the collective unconscious, Jung wrote of the self as the guide to balance. The listener's discipline is this path, loving without losing the soul. But this discipline has pitfalls. A man's silence can become avoidance, his eyes averted too long, fearing conflict. A woman's quiet can turn to suppression, her hands clenched, hiding her truth. Jung warned of the complex, a knot of emotions that grips the psyche. A complex of rejection might make silence a shield, turning discipline into distance. Have you ever listened so long you forgot your voice? Both genders have, and the body betrays their struggle, his stiff posture, her tightened lips. To wield this discipline, one could pause, Jung would suggest, feeling the weight of their breath. Ask, why do I stay silent? Is it to love or to hide? Write it down. I held back today, fearing they'd turn away. Choose moments to speak, balancing listening with truth, letting love grow through openness. The body softens, shoulders easing, as if to say, listen, but let your heart speak too. Picture a scene, a man's feet shift, grounding himself, as he says no to a demand that pulls him from his core. A woman's spine straightens, her gaze steady as she sets a boundary, choosing herself. This is the guardian, the second pattern of self-discipline in love, the universal strength for men and women. Jung saw boundaries as acts of self-awareness, the dialogue with the shadow. The guardian disciplines the body to stand firm, not in anger, but in clarity. A woman might cross her arms, not in defense but in resolve, refusing to overgive. A man might plant his hands on his hips, his voice calm, declining to chase approval. These gestures are discipline, Jung would say, not rejection, but affirmation of the self. In Psychological Types, Jung wrote of individuation as a balance of opposites, passion and restraint, giving and keeping. The guardian's discipline is this balance, loving fully while holding the self intact. But the guardian can falter. A man's rigid stance may become defiance, his eyes hard, masking a complex of inadequacy. A woman's closed posture can turn cold, her silence sharp, hiding a fear of loss. Jung's complex, perhaps one of abandonment, can twist discipline into isolation, love into a battlefield. Have you ever set a boundary only to fear it pushed love away? Both have, and the body tells the tale, his clenched jaw, her averted gaze. To embody this discipline, one could breathe, Jung would suggest, feeling the heart's steady beat. Ask, why do I stand firm? Is it strength or fear? Reflect, I said no today, but it felt like anger, not clarity. Choose boundaries that honor both self and other, a gentle no paired with an open hand. The body relaxes, arms unfolding as if to say, guard your heart, but let love in. Envision a moment, a woman's hands pause, fingers still, resisting the urge to cling to a fading moment. A man's eyes close briefly, his breath slowing, letting go of a need to control. This is the releaser, the third pattern of self-discipline in love, a shared act of courage. Jung taught that love tests the ego, stirring the shadow's deepest fears, loss, rejection, unworthiness. The releaser disciplines the body to let go, not of love, but of the need to possess it. A man might unclench his fists, palms opening, allowing his partner space to grow. A woman might lift her chin, her shoulders easing, releasing the urge to demand reassurance. These gestures are discipline, Jung would say, a dance with the anima, for men or animus for women. The inner archetypes of connection and strength. In Ion, Jung wrote of the self as a center that holds opposites. The releaser's discipline is this center, loving freely while embracing freedom. But release can stumble. A woman's open hands can mask resignation, her eyes dull, hiding a complex of unworthiness. A man's relaxed posture can hide avoidance, his gaze distant, fearing vulnerability. Jung's complex, perhaps one of betrayal, can make letting go a surrender, not a choice. Have you ever let go, only to feel you've lost yourself? Both have, and the body whispers their pain, her slumped shoulders, his tight smile. To wield this discipline, one could pause, Jung would suggest, feeling the rise of their chest. Ask, why do I release? Is it freedom or fear? Right, I let go today, but it felt like giving up. Choose to release with intention, an open palm paired with a steady gaze, building love through trust. The body softens, hands resting as if to say, release, but hold your truth. Imagine a couple. A man's head tilts, his eyes searching as he shares a hidden fear. A woman's hands unclasp, her voice steady as she speaks her truth. This is the revealer, the fourth pattern of self-discipline in love, a shared act of vulnerability. Jung saw love as a crucible, forging the psyche through truth. The revealer disciplines the body to open, not recklessly, but with purpose, facing the shadow's fear of judgment. A woman might square her shoulders, her breath deep, as she admits a doubt. A man might lean forward, his hands still, as he confesses a need. These gestures are discipline, Jung would say, a dialogue with the anima or animus, balancing vulnerability with strength. In the structure and dynamics of the psyche, Jung wrote of individuation as a path to authenticity. The revealer's discipline is this path, loving through truth without dissolving the self. But revelation can falter. A man's open posture can hide desperation, his eyes pleading, driven by a complex of shame. A woman's steady voice can mask fear, her hands trembling, fearing rejection. Jung's complex, perhaps one of inferiority, can turn truth into a plea, not a gift. Have you ever shared your heart only to fear it was too much? Both have, and the body betrays their doubt, his hunched shoulders, her bitten lip. To embody this discipline, one could breathe, Jung would suggest, feeling the warmth of their hands. Ask, why do I reveal? Is it truth or need? Reflect, I spoke today, but it felt like begging. Choose to share with clarity, a steady gaze paired with a calm voice, building love through courage. The body opens, eyes softening, as if to say, reveal, but stand tall. Picture a moment. A woman's arms relax, her smile gentle as she chooses love over anger. A man's hands rest, his voice soft, as he forgives a slight. This is the builder, the fifth pattern of self-discipline in love, the universal act of creation. Jung taught that love is a journey, a path to the self through choice. The builder disciplines the body to create, not just moments, but a bond that endures. A man might nod, his eyes warm, choosing patience over pride. A woman might touch her partner's hand, her grip steady, choosing trust over doubt. These gestures are discipline, Jung would say, a dance with the self, weaving passion and purpose. In Symbols of Transformation, Jung wrote of love as a transformative force. The builder's discipline is this force, loving through acts that shape wholeness. But building can break. A woman's gentle touch can hide fear, her smile forced, driven by a complex of loss. A man's patience can mask avoidance, his nod empty, fearing conflict. Jung's complex, perhaps one of betrayal, can turn creation into sacrifice, love into duty. Have you ever built love, only to feel it cost your soul? Both have, and the body tells their story. Her tight smile, his distant eyes. To wield this discipline, one could pause, Jung would suggest, feeling the ground beneath their feet. Ask, what am I building? Is it love or a mask? Right, I chose kindness today, but it felt like losing myself. Choose acts that affirm both self and other, a warm touch paired with an honest word, creating love through truth. The body steadies, hands open, as if to say, build, but keep your heart whole. The air grows still, the weight of love's questions settling like dust. A hand rests, fingers loose, no longer clenched. Eyes soften, meeting the world with quiet strength. Jung's wisdom, like a gentle hum, lights the way. Discipline in love, the listener, the guardian, the releaser, the revealer, the builder, is not a chain or a shield. It's a dance, a will to grow, to love without losing the self. For men and women, it's the body's language, pauses, gestures, choices, that carves the path to individuation, to the self. Jung would say, discipline is a mirror, reflecting the psyche's light and shadow. In love, it's the choice to stand firm, to let go, to speak, to create. Each gesture, a step toward wholeness. The eternal recurrence of love's moments asks, live this love as if it will return forever. Each choice a mark of your truth. Have you ever loved and felt your soul expand? Both men and women have. And it's a discipline they're learning to embrace. Why do you love? What discipline do you hold? This journey asks us to look within, to see our strength not as control but as creation, not as loss but as growth. When you choose yourself, when you love truly, when you build boldly, everything changes. The world may call you too much, too quiet, too strong, but Jung would smile and say, you are enough. As you hear this tale, let your breath slow, your eyes grow heavy. The questions fade, the body stills, and Jung's words drift like a dream. What is your discipline? What will you create? Sleep, knowing your heart is yours to shape, your love yours to guard. Good night. The night is a velvet cloak, wrapped around a world that breathes and whispers. A crescent moon floats above, spilling silver threads across a river that hums with secrets, its waters weaving tales of love and longing. Clara stands by its edge, her breath soft as a sigh, her heart a quiet pulse. She thinks of love, of Daniel, the man whose laughter fills her days, of the dance they share, of the power that stirs beneath her touch. What is this power, she wonders, that women hold in love? Is it a gift, a weight, or something deeper, a spark that burns in the core of her being? This isn't a question that demands a roar. It's a murmur, like the wind kissing the river's surface, a call to pause, to sink into the heart's quiet depths. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who saw life as a flame of will and creation, would say Clara's power is no fleeting thing. It's a thread in the eternal weave of human desire. A pulse of strength that shapes the world. In love, a woman's power is not mere charm or guile. It's a force, a will to affirm, to create, to become. So let's walk with Clara along this river, under the moon's gentle glow, and let this tale unfold, slow and soft, like a lullaby meant to cradle you into sleep. What is her power, and how does it shimmer in the stillness of love? Had you ever felt a strength you couldn't name, a quiet force that flows through you, moving the world without a sound? Clara feels it now, her feet rooted by the river, the moonlight tracing her form like a verse. She thinks of Daniel, of the way his voice softens when she speaks, the way her glance can shift the air between them. The world might call her power seduction, a fleeting spell, but Nietzsche would lean close, his voice a whisper, and ask, what is power, truly? Is it dominance, or is it creation, a will to shape life itself? Nietzsche in Beyond Good and Evil saw life as a dance of the will to power, a primal urge that drives every soul to assert itself, to create, to overcome. For Clara, in love, this will is her breath, her touch, her choice to give or hold back. It's the way she crafts the space between her and Daniel, the way her presence commands without shouting. Nietzsche would say her power is not a game of beauty or a trick of the heart. It's her will to power, her drive to affirm her existence, to make her love a living art. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he spoke of the Übermensch, the one who transcends the ordinary, who creates values in a world without gods. Clara, in her love, is no pawn or queen. She is a creator, painting her relationship with Daniel in strokes of will, passion, and truth. Picture the river, its waters catching the moon's light, rippling like a dream. Clara's power is not a crown she wears or a chain she binds. It's a quiet strength, rooted in her ability to choose. Choose when to open her soul, when to pull back, when to let silence speak. But this power, Nietzsche would warn, is a flame that can warm or burn. It can light her path or consume her if she wields it without care. Have you ever held a power you didn't fully grasp? Clara has, and it's both her gift and her riddle. Nietzsche would say her power flows from her will, but it's shaped by her choices, choices to affirm herself, to love boldly, to stand as herself in love's tender dance. Let's drift deeper into the patterns of this power and see how they unfold under the stars. Why do we love? Why do we pour ourselves into another, knowing the joy, the pain, the risk? Clara's thoughts swirl, the rivers hum a gentle guide. She remembers a night with Daniel, his eyes bright as he spoke of his dreams, her words weaving through his, her laughter a bridge between them. There's a power here, one the world might call feminine charm, but Nietzsche would call it something greater. The shaper, the first pattern of a woman's power in love. Nietzsche argued that power is not force, but influence, the ability to move the world without breaking it. Clara, as the shaper, molds the emotional landscape of her love. When she listens to Daniel's hopes, when she offers a touch that eases his doubts, she's not just comforting, she's creating. Her presence is a force, a will that draws him closer, that makes him want to rise, to meet her in the space she's carved. This is power, Nietzsche would say, not in controlling Daniel, but in inspiring him to affirm his own will, to create alongside her. In the gay science, Nietzsche wrote of life as an experiment, a canvas for the bold. Clara's love is her experiment, her art, her will to shape a bond that lifts them both. But this power has shadows. Clara feels it sometimes, when her shaping becomes a need to control, when she fears Daniel's dreams might pull him away. Nietzsche warned of the slave morality, the mindset that seeks power through manipulation, through guilt or need. If Clara uses her charm to bind Daniel, to make him depend on her, she risks falling into this trap, her power turning hollow, her love a cage. The shaper must be free, Nietzsche would murmur, free to create without clinging, to love without owning. Have you ever shaped someone's heart, only to fear you've shaped it too tightly? Clara has, and the river sees her struggle. To wield this power, Clara could pause, Nietzsche would suggest, like a breeze holding still. She could ask, what am I creating in this love? Am I lifting us both, or am I binding him to me? She could choose moments to step back, to let Daniel shape their dance too, to let their wills meet as equals. She could reflect on a memory, a night when she held back, let Daniel speak and felt their bond grow stronger, not weaker. Her power lies in her freedom, in her choice to create a love that affirms them both. The moonlight nods, as if to say, shape, Clara, but let the river flow. The river glimmers, its surface a mirror for the stars. Clara thinks of the moments when she stands firm, when her no carries as much weight as her yes. She recalls an evening by the fire, Daniel urging her to move faster, to commit to a future she wasn't ready for. She said no, her voice soft but unyielding, and the air shifted as if the world held its breath. This is her power, not in yielding, but in choosing, in standing as herself. Nietzsche would call this the sovereign, the second pattern of a woman's power in love. In On the Genealogy of Morality, he spoke of the master morality, the strength to affirm one's will, to say yes to life without bowing to others' demands. Clara's sovereignty is her ability to choose her path in love, to set boundaries, to honor her own desires. When she says no, she's not rejecting Daniel. She's affirming herself, her will to live authentically. This is power, Nietzsche would say, the power of the one who creates her own values, who loves without losing herself. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he wrote of those who stand apart, who shape their lives like stars. Clara, in her no, is a star, shining with her own light. But sovereignty is a delicate art. Nietzsche warned that power can twist into pride, into a need to dominate. If Clara's no becomes a weapon, a way to punish or control, she risks slipping into the slave morality she seeks to rise above. Her power lies in balance, in choosing when to stand firm and when to yield, in loving Daniel as an equal, not a subject. Have you ever said no and felt the world shift? Clara has, and it's a power she's learning to wield. She remembers another moment, a quiet morning when she chose her own pace, and Daniel, instead of pulling away, drew closer, respecting her strength. To embody this power, Clara could reflect. Nietzsche would suggest, like a star gazing at its own light. She could ask, why do I say no? Is it to affirm myself or to wound? She could practice boundaries that honor both her will and Daniel's, creating a love where both are free. She could recall a time when her boundary, a gentle refusal to rush, led to a deeper trust, a moment when Daniel saw her not as an obstacle, but as a partner. Her sovereignty is her crown, Nietzsche would whisper, but it shines brightest when shared. The river song grows clearer, urging Clara to stand tall, to love as a sovereign, not a ruler. The night deepens, the moon climbing higher, its light a quiet hymn. Clara thinks of the way she inspires Daniel. The way her passion, her dreams, her fire seemed to kindle something in him. She recalls a night under the stars, her voice alive with stories of places she longs to see. And Daniel's eyes lit up, his own dreams stilling out. There's a power here, one the world might call enchantment, but Nietzsche would see it as the muse, the third pattern of a woman's strength, in love. In The Birth of Tragedy, Nietzsche celebrated the Dionysian spirit, the wild, creative force that breaks through order, that stirs the soul to create. Clara, as the muse, is this force in her love. Her laughter, her stories, her unguarded moments awaken Daniel's own will, urging him to dream, to create, to live more fully. This is power, Nietzsche would say, not in commanding, but in igniting, in being the spark that sets another's fire alight. Clara's muse is her will to power, her ability to inspire without forcing, to love by being fully herself. In The Gay Science, Nietzsche wrote of joy as a force that transforms. Clara's joy, her passion, transforms Daniel, making their love a shared creation. But this power can flicker. Nietzsche warned of the slave morality that seeks approval, that gives to be loved. If Clara becomes the muse to please Daniel, to earn his devotion, her power dims, her fire reduced to a shadow. The muse must burn for herself, Nietzsche would murmur, her light a gift, not a plea. Have you ever inspired someone, only to lose your own spark? Clara has, and the river feels her falter. She remembers a time when she pushed her own dreams aside, trying to be what Daniel needed, and felt her light dim, her heart heavy. To wield this power, Clara could breathe, Nietzsche would suggest, like a wind dancing over the water. She could ask, why do I inspire? Is it for me or for him? She could nurture her own passions, letting her fire burn bright, sharing it with Daniel as an act of joy, not duty. She could recall a moment when her own dream, a trip she planned, a story she wrote, lit her soul. And Daniel, seeing her shine, loved her more, not less. Her muse is her art, Nietzsche would whisper, and it shines when it's free. The stars twinkle, as if to say, burn, Clara, and let your light lift you both. The wind stirs, cool and sharp, carrying the scent of earth and pine. Clara thinks of the moments when she chooses silence, when her absence speaks louder than words. She remembers a day when Daniel called, his voice urgent, needing her, but she stayed quiet, needing herself more. Her silence wasn't cold, it was true, and it changed the air between them. There's a power here, one the world might call distant, but Nietzsche would see it as the enigma, the fourth pattern of a woman's strength in love. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche spoke of the eternal recurrence, the idea that life repeats infinitely, each moment a choice to live fully. Clara's enigma is her power to withdraw, to choose when to be present and when to vanish, to let her silence shape their love. When she steps back, when she doesn't answer Daniel's call immediately, she's not punishing, she's affirming her will, her right to exist beyond his gaze. This is power, Nietzsche would say, the power of the one who is whole in herself, who loves without dissolving into another. In Beyond Good and Evil, he wrote of those who are mysteries, who command respect by being themselves. But the enigma is a tightrope. Nietzsche warned that withdrawal can become a game, a way to manipulate through absence. If Clara's silence is a tactic to control Daniel, to make him chase her, she risks falling into the slave morality of neediness, disguised as strength. Her power lies in authenticity, in choosing silence because it's true, not because it binds. Have you ever been silent and felt the world lean closer? Clara has, and it's a power she's learning to trust. She recalls another moment, a quiet evening when she chose herself, and Daniel, instead of pulling away, sought her with new respect, seeing her depth. To embody this power, Clara could pause, Nietzsche would suggest, like a star fading into dawn. She could ask, "Why am I silent? Is it my truth or a game?" She could choose moments of absence that honor her soul, returning to Daniel with a love that's free, not forced. She could reflect on a time when her silence, a day spent alone, tending her own heart, brought them closer, their love stronger for her truth. Her enigma is her mystery, Nietzsche would whisper, and it shines when it's real. The river's flow strengthens, urging Clara to be whole, to love as an enigma, not a trap. The river glimmers, its surface a canvas for the night. Clara thinks of the moments when she loves fiercely, when her heart is a fire that burns for Daniel, for herself, for life. She remembers a morning when they danced in the kitchen, her love a wild, unguarded thing, and Daniel joined her, their laughter a shared creation. There's a power here, one the world might call devotion, but Nietzsche would see it as the creator, the fifth pattern of a woman's strength in love. Nietzsche argued that the greatest power is to create, to shape values, to affirm life, to make beauty from chaos. Clara, as the creator, is the architect of her love. Her choices, to forgive Daniel's flaws, to challenge his fears, to dream with him, are acts of creation, building a relationship that reflects her will, her vision. This is power, Nietzsche would say, the power of the one who loves as an artist, who makes love a masterpiece of will and truth. In The Gay Science, he wrote of life as a poem, each moment a chance to create. Clara's love is her poem, her will the pen, her heart the ink. But creation is fragile. Nietzsche warned of the slave morality that clings to safety, that loves to be loved. If Clara creates only to please Daniel, to avoid loss, her power fades, her art reduced to a shadow. The creator must love for herself, Nietzsche would murmur, her will the brush, her heart the canvas. Have you ever loved so fiercely you felt alive? Clara has, and it's a power she's learning to claim. She recalls a time when she chose to forgive, not to keep Daniel, but because it freed her. Her love, a creation of strength, not need. To wield this power, Clara could dream, Nietzsche would suggest, like a wind painting the sky. She could ask, what am I building in this love? Is it mine or his? She could choose acts of love that affirm her will, that create a bond where both are free. She could reflect on a moment when her love, a letter she wrote, a dream she shared, built something lasting, something true. Her creator is her legacy, Nietzsche would whisper, and it shines when it's bold. The moonlight glows as if to say, create, Clara, and let your love be art. The night is still, the moon a quiet witness. Clara stands by the river, her heart full, her soul awake. Nietzsche's wisdom, like starlight, lights her way. Her power and love, the shaper, the sovereign, the muse, the enigma, the creator, is not a weapon or a chain. It's her will to power, her drive to affirm, to create, to live fully in the dance of love. Each pattern is a choice, a chance to shape her relationship with Daniel as a work of art, a testament to her strength. Nietzsche would say her power is her Übermensch, her chance to transcend the ordinary, to create values in a world that judges too quickly. In love, Clara is not a queen or a servant. She is a creator, a force, a will that shines under the stars. And the eternal recurrence whispers, live this love as if it will return forever. Each moment a choice to be true, to be powerful, to be you. Have you ever loved and felt the world bend to your will? Clara has, and it's a power she's learning to embrace. Why do you love? What power do you hold? Clara's journey asks us to look within, to see our strength not as control, but as creation. Not as chains, but as freedom. When you choose yourself, when you love fiercely, when you create boldly, everything changes. The world may call you too much, too bold, too free, but Nietzsche would smile and say, "You are enough." As Clara turns from the river, the wind at her back, she feels light, like a leaf lifted by the breeze. Nietzsche's voice echoes, soft and sure. Your power is your will, your love a river, your life a star. Shape it, guard it, let it shine, but don't let it fade. Love fiercely, but love truly. Choose a love that lifts you, that flows with you, that lights your way. And now, as you hear this tale, let your breath slow, your eyes grow heavy, the river fades, the moonlight dims, and Nietzsche's words drift like clouds. What is your power? What will you create? Sleep, knowing your will is yours to shape, your light yours to guard. Good night. The night is a velvet curtain draped across a world gone quiet, where a crescent moon spills silver light over a river that whispers secrets to the dark. Clara stands there, alone, her breath a soft rhythm, her heart a drumbeat of questions. Why does she want so much? Why does this hunger gnaw at her, relentless, unending? They call it greed, this fire that burns for more love, more power, more meaning. They pin it to her, a woman, as if it's a stain, a flaw, a weight only she must carry. But what if it's not? What if this greed, this endless wanting, is something else? A cry from the depths of her soul, a map to a truth she's yet to claim. This isn't a question that screams for answers. It's a whisper, like the wind brushing the river's surface, a call to pause, to listen, to sink into the shadows of the psyche. Carl Jung, the quiet sage who saw the mind as a labyrinth of light and dark, would say Clara's hunger isn't hers alone. It's a thread in the tapestry of the collective unconscious, a pulse that beats in us all. Greed, when it's named, especially for women, carries judgment. But Jung would see it differently. It's a mirror, reflecting the parts of her psyche she's buried, the parts she fears. So let's walk with Clara, under the moon's watchful eye, and unravel this tale, slow and deep, like a river carving its path through stone. Why does she want without end? And what happens when she stops chasing, when she turns inward, when everything changes? Have you ever felt a void you couldn't name? A pull towards something, anything, that promises to make you whole. Clara feels it now, her feet rooted by the river, the moonlight tracing her silhouette like a question mark. The world sees her ambition, her restless drive, and calls it greed. She wants too much, they say, too much success, too much love, too much of the stars themselves. But Jung would lean close, his voice a murmur, and ask, what is greed, really? Is it a curse or is it a signal? A flare from the unconscious, begging to be seen. Jung saw the psyche as a river, its surface, the conscious ego, the I that meets the world. Beneath flows the personal unconscious, a current of memories and emotions tucked away. Deeper still lies the collective unconscious, a vast ocean of archetypes, primordial patterns like the hero, the shadow, the trickster, that shape every human soul. Clara's greed, this endless hunger, isn't just a ripple on the surface. It's a wave from the depths, stirred by her shadow. Part of her psyche she's locked away. The shadow holds what she denies, her shame, her power, her unspoken needs. When she chases more, Jung would say, she's not just seeking wealth or praise, she's seeking herself. the fragments of her soul she's been taught to hide. Picture the river, its waters glinting under the stars. Clara's ambition is tied to her persona, the mask she wears to be loved, to be enough. Society has taught women, to be selfless, to give, to shrink. But her hunger defies that script, spilling over, and the world calls it greed. Jung would nod, his eyes sharp, and say, "This is no mistake." The shadow, when ignored, grows heavy, like a stone sinking into the river's bed. Clara's greed is her shadow speaking, demanding to be heard. It's her repressed desire for freedom, for a voice that doesn't bow. And the more she denies it, the fiercer it burns, driving her to grasp at what she thinks will fill the void. But here's the truth. Carried on the wind's soft breath, Clara's hunger isn't the enemy. It's how she chases it, how she pours herself into the world's demands without pause, without boundaries. Jung called this a complex, a knot of emotions that grips the psyche like a storm. Clara's complex might be one of lack, a belief that she's never enough, that she must seize more to prove her worth. This complex, Jung would say, is what makes her greed seem endless, a cycle of wanting that never rests. And it pulls her away from individuation, the sacred journey to weave her conscious and unconscious into a whole, authentic self. Have you ever chased something only to find it leaves you emptier? Clara has, and the river, quiet and wise, waits for her to see. Why do we want what we cannot hold? Why do we run toward horizons that fade? Clara's thoughts swirl, the moonlight a mirror for her questions. She thinks of her friend, Leela, who watches her strive and sighs. "Why do you need more?" Leela asks, her voice a blade. "You have enough. A career, a home, love. Why can't you stop?" Clara feels the sting, a shame that coils like smoke. She wants to explain, but the words slip away. She keeps pushing, working late, chasing titles, seeking approval because stopping feels like falling, like losing herself. Jung would call this the seeker, the first pattern of Clara's so-called greed. It's a dance between her persona and her shadow, a silent war within. Her persona whispers, "Be successful, be admired, and you'll be whole." But her shadow growls, "You're empty, you're nothing, you'll never be enough." And Clara, terrified of that growl, projects it onto the world, believing that more achievements, more praise will silence it. Projection, Jung taught, is when we cast our hidden fears onto others, seeing in them what we cannot face. Clara projects her fear of inadequacy onto her work, her goals, thinking that if she climbs high enough, she'll be complete. This dance births a complex of inferiority, a belief that she must keep grasping to prove her worth. It's like a river current, relentless, pulling her forward without rest. And this current blocks individuation, the journey to balance her ambition with her need for peace, her drive with her soul's quiet song. Jung would say Clara's greed isn't about wanting too much. It's about wanting blindly, chasing shadows instead of light. Her psychic energy, that vital spark Jung called libido, is poured into this chase, leaving her drained, her heart a hollow echo. Have you ever run so fast you forgot why you started? Clea has, and it's cost her more than she knows. Being a seeker, Jung would murmur, is like chasing a star that never rises. Ambition is a fire, beautiful and fierce, but without reflection, it burns you out. Clara could pause, he'd suggest, and listen to the river's hum. She could ask, what am I truly seeking? What wound drives this hunger? She could write it down, a confession to her shadow. I feel I'm not enough. I fear I'll never be. She could choose goals that feed her soul, not just her persona, and seek allies who see her worth without demanding she prove it. The moonlight would shimmer, approving, as Clara begins to see. Her hunger is a guide, not a chain, as she turns it inward. The river flows on, its surface a canvas for the stars. Clara's mind drifts to her colleague, Mark, who thrives on rivalry. He challenges her, pushes her, and she answers, working harder, staying later, aiming to outshine him. She wants to win, to be the best, and the world calls this greed, a woman's ambition twisted into something ugly. But Clara feels alive in the fight, her pulse racing until the victories pile up and feel like dust in her hands. Jung would call this the competitor, the second pattern of her endless wanting. It's a power complex, where Clara seeks dominance to mask her shadow, her fear of being unseen, her need to matter. Mark projects his own shadow, his insecurity, onto Clara, turning their work into a duel. This dynamic stirs her animus, the masculine archetype of strength and assertion in her psyche. But when unchecked, the animus becomes a tyrant, driving her to compete without end, draining her energy in a war that never fills her. Have you ever fought for a prize, only to find it worthless? Clara has, and the river sees her exhaustion. This pattern pulls her from individuation, from the self, the archetype of wholeness that seeks balance, not conquest. Her psychic energy is spent proving herself, leaving little for her dreams, her joys, her quiet moments under the stars. Jung would say her greed here is a misdirection, a hunger for victory when what she craves is acceptance of herself as she is. Being a competitor, he'd whisper, is like rowing against the river's flow. Striving is human, but striving without purpose drowns you. Clara could step back, Jung would suggest, like a breeze retreating from a storm. She could ask, why do I need to win? What am I proving? She could set boundaries, choosing when to fight and when to rest. She could seek allies, not enemies, who lift her without demanding she bleed. The stars would wink as if to say, you are enough, Clara, without the war. And in that moment, she feels a shift, a softening, a chance to breathe. The night deepens, the moon climbing higher. Its light a silent guide. Clara thinks of her sister, Emma, who leans on her endlessly. Her time, her wisdom, her heart. Clara gives, planning Emma's life, soothing her fears, because love means sacrifice, doesn't it? But the world sees her giving as greed, a hunger for control, for being indispensable. Clara feels the weight, her own needs buried, her soul stretched thin, like a thread ready to snap. Jung would call this the caretaker, the third pattern of her so-called greed. It's a savior complex, where Clara seeks worth by rescuing others, projecting her shadow, her fear of being unlovable onto Emma. Emma projects her own shadow, her dependency, onto Clara, clinging to her to avoid her own path. This dynamic chokes Clara's anima, the feminine archetype of intuition and care, turning her love into a chain that binds her. Have you ever given so much you forgot yourself? Clara has, and the river mourns her loss. This pattern stalls individuation, pulling Clara from the self's call for reciprocity, for a balance of giving and receiving. Her energy drains, her river running dry as she pours herself into Emma's voids. Jung would say her greed here is a hunger for validation, not control. A belief that she's only worthy when needed. Being a caretaker, he'd murmur, is like filling a well that never holds water. Care is sacred, but care without boundaries empties you. Clara could pause, Jung would suggest. Like a star holding still in the sky, she could say, Emma, I love you, but I need space. She could ask, why do I need to be needed? What fear drives this? She could seek relationships that share the load, that nurture her in return. The river's song grows louder, urging Clara to love herself as fiercely as she loves others. And in that whisper, she finds a spark, a chance to reclaim her heart. The wind stirs, cool and sharp, carrying the scent of earth and pine. Clara's thoughts turn to her friend, Sophie, who always knows best. Sophie's advice is a leash on Clara's career, her choices, her life. Clara listens, nods, bends, because resisting feels like losing Sophie's love. The world calls this greed, a hunger for influence, for shaping others. But Clara feels caged, her voice a whisper she can't hear. Jung would call this the conformer, the fourth pattern of her endless wanting. It's a submission complex, where Clara seeks belonging by yielding, projecting her shadow, her fear of standing alone, onto Sophie. Sophie projects her own shadow, her need for control onto Clara, molding her like clay. This dynamic strangles Clara's animus, the archetype of independence, leaving her bending under Sophie's will, her energy spent pleasing instead of growing. Have you ever silenced yourself to keep the peace? Clara has, and the river feels her pain. This pattern blocks individuation, keeping Clara from the self's call to authenticity, to a life shaped by her own hands. Jung would say her greed here is a hunger for acceptance, not power, a fear that she'll be cast out if she stands firm. Being a conformer, he'd whisper, is like letting the wind choose your path. Connection is vital, but connection that silences you steals your soul. Clara could speak, Jung would suggest, like a breeze finding its voice. Sophie, I value you, but I'll choose my way. She could ask, why do I yield? Why do I yield? What do I fear losing? She could seek friends who honor her voice, who walk beside her, not ahead. The moonlight softens, whispering, your path is yours, Clara. Claim it. And in that moment, Clara feels her animus stir, a strength she'd forgotten. The river glimmers, a mirror for the stars. Clara's heart grows heavy as she thinks of Rachel, a friend whose charm is a mask. Rachel takes Clara's time, her secrets, her trust, and twists them, spreading lies, sowing doubt. Clara stays, forgiving, hoping, because losing Rachel feels like losing herself. The world calls this greed, a hunger for connection at any cost. But Clara feels shattered, her trust a fragile shard. Jung would call this the enabler, the fifth pattern of her endless wanting. It's a victim complex, where Clara clings to toxic bonds, projecting her shadow, her fear of abandonment, onto Rachel. Rachel embodies the trickster archetype, projecting her own shadow, jealousy, chaos, onto Clara, manipulating for gain. This dynamic severs Clara's connection to the self, eroding her trust, her energy consumed by Rachel's games. Have you ever held on to pain, thinking it's love? Clara has. And the river weeps for her. This pattern is the heaviest, stalling individuation by trapping Clara in a cycle of hurt. Jung would say her greed here is a hunger for love, not connection, a belief that she must endure to be worthy. Being an enabler, he'd murmur, is like drinking from a poisoned well. Hope is human, but hope that binds you to harm destroys you. Clara could step away, Jung would suggest, like a star fading from view. She could limit contact, guard her heart, and ask, why do I stay? What wound keeps me here? She could seek therapy, friends who heal, not hurt. The river's flow strengthens, urging Clara to choose herself, to let go of what poisons her. And in that choice, she feels a spark, a fire that burns for her, not against her. The night is deep, the moon a quiet witness. Clara stands by the river, her breath steady, her soul awake. Jung's wisdom, like starlight, lights her way. Her hunger, her so-called greed, isn't a sin. It's a mirror, reflecting her shadow, her complexes, her unclaimed power. The seeker, the competitor, the caretaker, the conformer, the enabler. These are not flaws but teachers, showing her where to grow, where to set boundaries, where to shine. Individuation, Jung would say, is like charting a course by the stars, each step a choice to honor the self, to balance hunger with peace, ambition with rest. Clara's greed was never about wanting too much. It was about wanting wrongly, chasing shadows instead of light. By pausing, reflecting, choosing, she reclaims her energy, her river flowing strong. And the collective unconscious, that vast ocean, holds this truth for us all, in myths of heroes who faced their hunger, who learned to want wisely, to become whole. Why do you want what you want? What void are you trying to fill? Clara's journey asks us to look within, to see our hunger not as greed, but as a guide. When you stop chasing blindly, when you set boundaries, when you choose yourself, everything changes. The world may call you selfish, cold, too much, but Jung would smile and say, "You're becoming you." And that's enough. As Clara turns from the river, the wind at her back, she feels light, like a leaf lifted by the breeze. Jung's voice echoes, soft and sure. Your hunger is a map, your psyche a river, your life a star. Follow it, guard it, let it shine, but don't let it burn. Want fiercely, but want truly. Choose connections that lift you, that flow with you, that light your way. And now, as you hear this tale, let your breath slow, your heart settle. The river fades, the moonlight dims, and Jung's words drift like clouds. What do you chase? What will you release? Sleep, knowing your hunger is yours to shape. Your light, yours to guard. Good night. People we should avoid as friends, a Jungian perspective. Chapter 1, The Weight of Friendship. The afternoon sun filtered through the cafe window, casting a warm glow over the wooden table where she sat, a cup of tea cooling in her hands. Her mind wandered, tracing the threads of her life, moments of joy, heartbreak, and the people who had shaped her journey. Some friends had lifted her spirits, their laughter like a melody that carried her through dark days. Others, though, left a heavier mark, conversations that drained her, moments that left her questioning her worth. As she sipped her tea, a question lingered. Why do some friendships feel like anchors, pulling me down instead of lifting me up? This question resonates deeply in the context of Carl Gustav Jung's psychology, which views relationships as mirrors of the psyche, reflecting both our light and our shadows. Jung, the visionary Swiss psychologist, believed that every interaction, especially with friends, engages the unconscious, activating archetypes, complexes, and the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole, authentic self. In his words, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Through this lens, friendships are not just social bonds, but opportunities for self-discovery, revealing the parts of our psyche we embrace and those we repress. Yet, not all friendships foster growth. Some friends, whether intentionally or not, trigger our insecurities, disrupt our balance, or hinder our path to individuation. The question, who should we avoid as friends, becomes a matter of psychological survival. A call to protect our inner world and choose relationships that align with our quest for wholeness. This 6,000-word exploration, grounded in Jung's theories, will weave a narrative of a woman's journey to discern the friends who uplift her from those who weigh her down. Through her story, we'll identify 5 types of friends to avoid, analyze their impact through Jungian concepts, and offer practical guidance for setting boundaries and cultivating healthy connections. Let this journey inspire you to honor your worth, protect your psyche, and surround yourself with those who help you shine. Chapter 2, Jung's lens on relationships. To understand why some friends are best avoided, we must first explore Carl Jung's psychological framework, which places relationships at the heart of personal growth. Jung viewed the psyche as a dynamic system, comprising the conscious ego, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious, a universal reservoir of archetypes shared by all humanity. Relationships, including friendships, are arenas where these elements interact, revealing the interplay of light and shadow within us. Jung's concept of individuation is central to this discussion. Individuation is the lifelong process of integrating the conscious and unconscious, balancing opposing aspects of the psyche, such as the masculine and feminine, the rational and emotional, to become a whole self. Friends play a critical role in this journey, acting as mirrors that reflect our strengths, vulnerabilities, and unresolved conflicts. A supportive friend can activate our self, the archetype of wholeness, encouraging us to grow. A toxic friend, however, may trigger our shadow, the repressed, often negative aspects of the psyche, or our complexes, emotionally charged patterns that distort our behavior. Jung also emphasized the role of projection, where we attribute unconscious qualities to others. In friendships, we may project our shadow, e.g., insecurity, anger, or our anima animus, the contrasexual archetypes, onto others, shaping how we perceive them. A friend who criticizes us might reflect our own self-doubt, while one who manipulates might mirror an unintegrated need for control. Recognizing these projections is key to understanding why certain friends feel harmful and how they disrupt our individuation. The thesis "people we should avoid as friends" aligns with Jung's belief that not all relationships serve our growth. Some friends, through their behaviors or unconscious dynamics, pull us away from wholeness, activating destructive patterns or draining our psychic energy. By identifying these types, we can protect our journey and choose friends who support our quest for authenticity. Her story, The Woman in the Cafe, will guide us through this exploration as she reflects on her friendships and learns to discern those who harm from those who heal. Chapter 3. The Critic. The Friend Who Undermines. As she sat in the cafe, her thoughts drifted to a friend she'd known for years. Their conversations often started warmly, filled with shared memories, but they inevitably turned sour. A casual remark about her new job would elicit a dismissive, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of work for little reward." A proud moment, completing a creative project, would be met with, "It's nice, but I've seen better." These comments, cloaked in humor or honesty, left her feeling small, her confidence chipped away like paint on an old wall. The Jungian perspective. In Jung's framework, this critical friend activates the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that contains repressed fears, insecurities, and traits we deny. The critic's words often mirror our own self-doubt, amplifying the inner voice that questions our worth. Jung would suggest that this friend is projecting their own shadow, perhaps their own fears of failure or inadequacy, onto her, using criticism to deflect their inner turmoil. This dynamic creates a complex and emotionally charged pattern, e.g. an inferiority complex, that distorts her self-perception, making her feel unworthy or inadequate. The critic's behavior also disrupts individuation. By constantly undermining her, they hinder her connection to the self, the archetype of wholeness that affirms her unique value. Instead, they pull her into the shadow, where self-doubt festers, stalling her growth. Jung believed that confronting such projections is part of individuation, but prolonged exposure to criticism can overwhelm the psyche, making it harder to reclaim confidence. Why avoid them? A friend who consistently criticizes erodes self-esteem and blocks personal growth. Their negativity creates a psychic drain, sapping the energy needed for creativity, ambition, and self-discovery. While occasional constructive feedback can be valuable, relentless criticism, especially when it lacks empathy, signals a friendship that harms more than it helps. How to navigate? Recognize the impact. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with them. If you feel diminished, insecure, or exhausted, their criticism is likely toxic. Set boundaries. Politely but firmly reject harmful comments. For example, "I appreciate feedback, but that felt hurtful," Let's focus on something positive. Limit exposure. If the behavior persists, reduce contact. Spend time with friends who affirm your worth and celebrate your successes. Reflect on projections. Use Jung's insight to explore what their criticism reveals about your shadow. Journaling questions like what insecurities do their words trigger can help you integrate these aspects and grow. Motivational message. You are a unique soul, radiant with potential. Surround yourself with friends who see your light and help you shine brighter, not those who cast shadows over your dreams. Trust your worth and choose connections that uplift your spirit. Chapter 4. The user. The friend who takes without giving her thoughts shifted to another friend. One who always seemed to need something, a favor, a loan, or an ear to listen to their endless troubles. She'd spent hours helping them through crises, but when she needed support, a shoulder to cry on after a tough day, they were nowhere to be found. Their friendship felt like a one-way street. Her energy poured into a void with little return. The Jungian perspective. This friend embodies a power complex, a pattern where they seek control or validation by taking from others. Jung would argue that their behavior projects their unintegrated shadow, perhaps a fear of vulnerability or inadequacy, onto her, using her generosity to bolster their own sense of worth. This dynamic activates her own complexes, such as a savior complex, a need to rescue others, or a fear of abandonment, making her feel obligated to give despite the imbalance. In Jung's view, this friendship disrupts individuation by undermining her connection to the self. The self seeks balance and reciprocity, but a user exploits her energy, leaving her depleted and disconnected from her own needs. Their one-sided demands also block her from integrating her animus. For a woman, the archetype of assertiveness, as she struggles to set boundaries and prioritize herself. Why avoid them? A friendship that only takes is not a true friendship. It drains your psychic energy, leaving you feeling unvalued and disconnected from your own growth. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual give and take, fostering growth for both parties. How to navigate? Assess the balance. Reflect on what you give versus what you receive. If the scales tip heavily, the friendship is unsustainable. Set limits. Practice saying no to unreasonable requests. For example, I can't help with that right now, but I hope you find a solution. Seek reciprocity. Invest in friends who offer support and care in return, creating a balanced dynamic. Explore your role. Use Jung's lens to examine why you tolerate imbalance. Are you driven by a need to be needed? Journaling can help uncover these patterns and strengthen your animus. Motivational message. Your energy is precious, a gift to be shared with those who value it. Choose friends who give as much as they take, creating a circle of mutual growth. You deserve relationships that honor your generosity and reflect your worth. Chapter 5. The Negativist, the friend who drains energy. Another friend came to mind, one whose presence felt like a storm cloud. Every conversation was a litany of complaints about their job, their relationships, the world itself. Even her moments of excitement, a new hobby, a travel plan, were met with cynicism. That sounds nice, but it'll probably fall through. After their meetups, she felt heavy, her optimism dulled, as if their negativity had seeped into her bones. The Jungian perspective. Jung would view this friend as projecting an unintegrated shadow, where their unresolved fears, anger, or despair manifest as chronic negativity. Their complaints are not just about external circumstances, but a reflection of their inner turmoil, which they externalize onto others. This dynamic can activate her own shadow, stirring feelings of doubt or hopelessness that hinder her individuation. It may also trigger a depressive complex, where she internalizes their negativity, losing touch with herself and its capacity for joy. Jung believed that the psyche thrives on balance, and prolonged exposure to negativity disrupts this harmony. The negativist's energy pulls her away from the creative, life-affirming aspects of her psyche, making it harder to pursue her goals or maintain a positive outlook. Their influence can also block her connection to the animus, as their cynicism stifles the inspiration and assertiveness needed for growth. Why avoid them? Negativity is contagious, sapping your energy and clouding your perspective. A friend who constantly dwells on the negative can derail your motivation, making it harder to pursue your dreams or maintain emotional balance. How to navigate? Redirect the conversation. When they start complaining, gently shift to positive topics or encourage problem solving. For example, "That sounds tough. Have you thought about what you could do?" Protect your energy. Limit time spent with them, opting for brief interactions or text-based communication to reduce emotional impact. Seek positive influences. Surround yourself with friends who inspire optimism and share your enthusiasm for life. Reflect on your shadow. Use Jung's insight to explore why their negativity affects you. Are there fears or doubts in your shadow that resonate with their complaints? Meditation or journaling can help integrate these aspects. Motivational message: your life is a canvas, and you have the power to paint it with vibrant colors. Choose friends who add light to your palette, not those who dim your brilliance. Embrace your capacity for joy and let it guide you to connections that uplift your soul. Chapter 6: The Controller. The friend who dominates. Her thoughts turn to a friend who always seemed to take charge. Whether planning a group outing or discussing her life choices, they had an opinion, often unsolicited, and expected her to follow it. "You should quit that job. It's not for you," they'd say, dismissing her perspective. Their insistence made her feel like her voice didn't matter, her autonomy slipping away in their presence. The Jungian perspective. This friend exhibits a power complex, using control to compensate for their own unconscious insecurities or fears of chaos. Jung would argue that they project their shadow, perhaps a fear of vulnerability or failure, onto her, seeking to dominate to feel secure. This dynamic can trigger her own complexes, such as a submission complex, where she feels compelled to yield to avoid conflict, or a fear of asserting her animus, the archetype of independence and strength. In terms of individuation, the controller disrupts her connection to the self, which thrives on autonomy and self-expression. By imposing their will, they stifle her ability to make choices aligned with her true self, slowing her psychological growth. Their dominance also blocks her from integrating her animus, as she struggles to assert her needs and boundaries. Why avoid them? A controlling friend undermines your autonomy, making you feel like a passenger in your own life. True friendship respects your freedom, encouraging you to chart your own path, not dictating it. How to navigate? Assert your voice. Politely express your needs. For example, "I appreciate your input, but I'm going to decide this for myself." Establish boundaries. Firmly reject oversteps, such as, "I value our friendship, but I need to make my own choices." Reevaluate the relationship. If they refuse to respect your autonomy, consider distancing yourself to protect your independence. Strengthen your animus. Reflect on why you tolerate control. Practices like assertiveness training or journaling can help you integrate your animus and reclaim your power. Motivational message. You are the captain of your soul, steering your life toward your dreams. Choose friends who honor your freedom and cheer your journey, not those who try to take the helm. Embrace your strength and let it guide you to relationships that empower you. Chapter 7: The Toxic Friend, the Manipulator. The heaviest memory was of a friend whose presence was a paradox, charming yet destructive. They seemed caring, always ready with a compliment or a listening ear, but their actions told a different story. They'd share her secrets with others, twist her words to create drama, or subtly compete, making her feel like she was never enough. After their interactions, she felt anxious, betrayed, a knot of unease tightening in her chest. The Jungian perspective. This toxic friend embodies a deeply unintegrated shadow, projecting their unresolved emotions, jealousy, anger, or insecurity onto her in manipulative ways. Jung would see their behavior as a manifestation of a trickster archetype, a chaotic force that disrupts harmony for its own gain. Their actions trigger her complexes, such as a victim complex, feeling powerless, or a fear of betrayal, pulling her away from the self and its quest for wholeness. In the context of individuation, the toxic friend is particularly harmful. Their manipulation erodes trust, both in the relationship and in her own judgment, making it harder to navigate her psychological growth. They may also block her connection to the anima animus, as their deceit undermines the confidence and intuition needed to assert her true self. Why avoid them? A toxic friend is a psychic vampire, draining your emotional energy and sowing doubt in your heart. Their manipulation creates a cycle of pain, hindering your ability to trust and grow. True friendship is a sanctuary, not a battlefield. How to navigate: identify toxic patterns. Keep a record of interactions that leave you hurt or manipulated to clarify their impact. Gradual disengagement. Reduce contact, avoid sharing personal details, and focus on healthier relationships. Seek support. If leaving is difficult due to guilt or fear, confide in a trusted friend or therapist for guidance. Confront your shadow. Use Jung's insight to explore why you're drawn to or tolerate toxicity. Are there fears of loneliness or rejection in your shadow? Therapy or self-reflection can help integrate these aspects. Motivational message: your heart is a sacred space, deserving of love and respect. Let go of those who poison it, and open your life to friends who nurture your soul. You have the courage to choose connections that honor your light. Embrace it. Chapter 8. The Journey of Individuation. Choosing wisely. Her reflections in the cafe were more than a catalog of difficult friends. They were a turning point in her journey of individuation. Jung taught that every relationship is a mirror, reflecting the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche. The friends she needed to avoid: the critic, the user, the negativist, the controller, the toxic manipulator, were not just external figures but symbols of her inner world. Their behaviors triggered her shadow, her complexes, and her fears, challenging her to confront and integrate these aspects. Individuation, for Jung, is not about isolating oneself, but about choosing relationships that align with the self. By recognizing the friends who harm her, she was learning to set boundaries, assert her animus, and protect her psychic energy. This process was painful but empowering, a step toward becoming a whole, authentic self. Each decision to distance herself from a toxic friend was a declaration of self-worth, a commitment to her growth. Jung's concept of synchronicity also played a role. The moments when she felt drained or hurt were not random. They were meaningful signals from her unconscious, urging her to pay attention to her relationships. By listening to these signals, she could align her life with her true path, surrounding herself with friends who supported her individuation. Chapter 9. The Collective Unconscious. Friendship as a Universal Dance. Jung's idea of the collective unconscious adds a universal dimension to her journey. Friendships are not just personal but archetypal, echoing patterns that have shaped human connection for millennia. The critic, the user, the toxic manipulator. These are not just individuals, but manifestations of archetypes like the trickster, the tyrant, or the shadow. Her struggle to choose wisely is part of a timeless human story, reflected in myths, literature, and cultural narratives. This perspective elevates her choices to a cosmic level. By avoiding harmful friends, she is participating in the universal quest for balance, aligning her personal journey with the collective wisdom of humanity. Her decisions are not just about her, but about honoring the archetypes of connection, trust, and growth that reside in the collective unconscious. Chapter 10. Conclusion. Embracing healthy friendships. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the cafe grew quiet, and her tea had long gone cold. But her heart felt warmer, lighter, as if a weight had lifted. Reflecting on her friendships through Jung's lens, she saw them not as burdens but as opportunities. For growth, for self-discovery, for wholeness. The friends she needed to avoid were not enemies, but teachers, showing her the importance of boundaries, self-worth, and the courage to choose wisely. Through Carl Jung's psychology, the question, people we should avoid as friends, becomes a call to protect your psyche and honor your journey of individuation. The critic, the user, the negativist, the controller, the toxic manipulator. These are not just people, but mirrors of your unconscious, challenging you to confront your shadow, integrate your animus, and connect with yourself. By recognizing their impact and setting boundaries, you reclaim your power, creating space for friendships that uplift and inspire. Your journey, your life is a sacred tapestry, woven with the threads of your relationships. Choose friends who add vibrant colors, who celebrate your light and walk beside you on your path to wholeness. Trust your intuition, honor your worth, and let go of those who dim your spirit. You are not alone in this journey. The universe, through its archetypes, is guiding you toward connections that nurture your soul. Step boldly into the friendships you deserve and let them illuminate your way.